Hi, my name is Denise for those that don't know me, but I just wanted to share a story about autism. And it's my story and my family's journey into this life. It all started about, I'd say, three, maybe a little bit longer than that. But I have two children, and my son, he was diagnosed with autism shortly before he turned two, but he was showing signs and symptoms prior to that. But I, like most moms, when I got pregnant, I was happy. I was so happy. I had a girl the first time, so I was really, really trying, and I was like hoping and wishing that I got a boy, and thank God I did. But in everything, he was doing great. He was developing normally, just like his sister did. Everybody was hitting their milestones. I did all the checkups that I was supposed to do. I pretty much did everything with my first child that I did with my second child. I took care of my body. I cooked healthy food. I got them both vaccinated. My daughter, she was vaccinated, and my son, I was getting him on the same schedule. And it wasn't until about his 12 months where he got his 12-month shots, which included the MMR, that he later regressed and lost all of his developments that he was doing before. Prior to that, he was fine. He was talking, he was waving bye bye, he was doing the dad and the mama, the ABCs. I think were starting to, he was really starting to get there, especially with certain programming. He would watch certain shows and he would pick up on that. And he was doing great. He was playing well with his sister. He was doing all the fundamentally things that a child of his age should have been doing. And it wasn't until he got his shots that things started regressing. And it didn't happen immediately, but I would say over the course of several months, things started happening where he stopped talking. He would not go to sleep for the life of me. Like, I could not get him to stay asleep. Like, you put the baby to bed, and then, but he was so hyper, so it was hard to even get him to fall and be relaxed enough to fall asleep. But I would get him to sleep, and maybe 3 hours later he'd be back at it again, jumping and playing and squealing and laughing. And it was exhausting. He would do that every 3 hours, go to bed. Maybe he'll finally hit the bed at 9 o'clock, wake up at midnight. And then, of course, it takes like maybe an hour or more to finally get him to go back to sleep. But then 3 o'clock, he's up again, like, hi. So I was exhausted. I had like a 3-year old at the time, and then I had this kid. So and if he's not sleeping, guess who else is not sleeping? So I was exhausted for like 2 years straight. Like, there's no sleep. He lost that. And then also the other thing that what started happening was he would have what the only thing that I can describe to you what it felt like was like seizure-like episodes. He would be sleeping and he would wake up out of his sleep and he would be screaming, and it was almost as though, he had his eyes closed, he was flailing about, he was arching his back, high pierced screaming, as if he was in pain or something had scared him. And, I would go to his room, go to his crib. I would hold him, turn on the lights. I would say, baby, is it okay? Like, mommy's here. And he would not respond to any comfort that I tried to offer him. He was completely inconsolable. And he did that, a number of times. And of course, when I brought this, issue to his pediatrician, she was like, well, sometimes babies, they have like night terrors, and pretty much those concerns were dismissed. So I figured, okay, he's having night terrors. And because they weren't, you know, consecutive, it was these things that just I would notice. I was like, okay, well, he had that like last month, and then he had another one randomly this month, and I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I remember those things. Um, he lost eye contact. Um, he it was almost as though if he wouldn't notice you, like you were invisible. He wouldn't respond to his name. And he would be repetitive with everything. So if he stopped playing with his sister, or he no longer played appropriately with his toys, he would just stack blocks. He had like these Lego blocks, and he would just stack them up high to like a high tower over and over again. That's what he would do over and over again. He would say his ABCs over and over and over again. It was almost as if he was a broken record, and it wouldn't stop. It was constant in the house, where he was just constantly a broken record. And the other thing that I started noticing with him is that he his eating habits changed. He started restricting himself from eating certain foods. So he used to be, a baby that would drink his milk, and he really liked milk. It was one of those things where, he'd wake up in the morning, he wants his milk. He'd go to bed at night, he wants his milk. And he just craved milk. He craved crackers, bread, wheat and dairy. Those are the things that he pretty much just wanted to eat. And then the foods that I knew that he liked, like, spaghetti meatballs and things like that, which most kids, like, find me a kid that doesn't like spaghetti meatballs. But my children love spaghetti meatballs, chicken nuggets, those types of things. And it would almost be as though when he would eat it, it was like he had like an aversion to it. Like he put it in his mouth, and then it would just be so disgusting to him almost. That's how he behaved. So he would stop eating those foods, and it just became more and more difficult trying to take care of him. So all those things happened, and also like his poop. Oh my God, like this poop was awful. Like he could clear a room. It was so stink, and it was just disgusting. I don't want to get too graphic, but it wasn't pretty. And it just it got to the point where I knew something was not right. And every time I went to the doctor and I would share certain things, they always had, a reason as to why, this or that or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. So one day I was sitting at home, and he's running around. He's just like from one end of the room, just boom, 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 just like a Tasmanian devil. But he would just be running in a circle, and saying, of course, his ABCs over and over again. And I just thought, something's not right. And I would look at his sister, and, she's older, and I was like, well, she's older. She's a girl. Girls develop differently. They're more mature faster. They have I was trying to find a reason to explain this behavior that I was seeing. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. So I finally went to the doctor, and, I shared my concerns. She did a test for like the little checklist that you do in the office. And, pretty much she checked most of the boxes. So from there, she referred me out to see a specialist. And that took forever and a day to get that done. But I finally was able to see someone, and they did their assessment. And it was a very extensive assessment, lots of questions, lots of tests that they did. And finally, they came down with the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. When she handed me that piece of paper and went over, what the issues were, it was like, I felt like somebody shot me. Now I've never been shot before, but that's got to be how it feels. I just felt like my entire world, like my mind, like somebody just blew my head open, and I had this hole in my stomach, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like this is not happening. Like know, like it was this strange moment, and I was overcome with so much grief and so much despair because, in my mind, I'm thinking, I did everything right. This is what I was telling myself, of course. Like, I did everything I'm supposed to do. Like, when I was pregnant, I didn't eat certain foods. I did certain things. I did whatever they told me to do. I had a healthy pregnancy, and this is my second kid. I've done this before. And for this to be happening to me, this was never something that I planned for. And, a lot of that talk that you do in your head where you're just like, nah, like this, that's the denial coming through. That's you trying to justify, at least that's me trying to justify what was going on. But I sat there in their office and my husband was with me, and I can't speak for him, but we were heartbroken. And I didn't know what to do, So she was nice enough, the clinician, she was nice enough. And she was like, oh, don't worry, he'll talk. One day he'll talk, it's bound to happen. This was how she was talking to me. So I didn't really get too much assurance from her with that. But either way, she, gave me a stack, probably this thick, of numbers and therapists and people to call to see if I can get resources and services for him, like speech and things like that. So, with all that information, I was just overwhelmed. I mean, it just rocked my world. So I came home. I was super depressed for several weeks, and it just was hard for me to get out of bed. It's hard for me to think anything beyond that because I just felt terrible. But eventually, my husband one day, he came to me, and so one day my husband, with all of the feelings that we were all feeling, I'm sure, he came to me one day and he was like, hey, I came across this video where this mom, she's talking about how, she was able to get her son, or I believe her child, recovered from autism. And, I'm like crying and just feeling horrible. And I'm just like, what video you talking about where somebody really, like, go ahead on with that. But no, he insisted. He's like, watch this video. So I watched the video, and sure enough, the mom was talking about how she changed her child's diet. She started doing supplementation. She started researching, and she was able to get her child back to being neurotypical. And I was like, wait, what? You changed the diet? Take some vitamins? Oh, I can do that, right? Like, I can do that. So with that, watching that video, it just gave me a sense of hope. It gave me a possibility. It gave me more than what I had when I walked out of that lady's office with that diagnosis. It gave me something tangible that I can do, so I prayed. I prayed with my husband. I prayed like I never prayed before. And I was like, listen, we are going to do this. I know the child that I gave birth to, and we're going to get better. We're going to help him get to a place where he could be a functional, productive member of society. I want to get him to the point that, he can take care of himself, which is, I think, what most parents want anyway. You want your child to be in a place where they could take care of themselves. Because going back to that day in the office, like, all my dreams, all the hopes that I had for him, the idea that he'll be driving his first car, that he'll go to the prom, that he'll graduate school, graduate college, that he'll get married one day, all those things in that moment was just sucked out of me. And, watching this video and listening to this mom talk about how she felt and then what she did and how her son has changed, it gave me my hope back. It gave me ammunition to work with. So immediately I got to work and I started watching every video I could find. I started getting books. I started doing all these things, and it helped me get out of my funk, for one, because I have a family to take care of. I have another kid that needs me. So I was able to come out of that, and I'm so thankful for that. You know, as much as this journey that I've been on, it's not something that I would ever wish for, but I am thankful for it because in many ways it's been transformative. It has changed my life. It has changed the way I think. It has changed the way I parent. It changed the way I see the world. And so I just wanted to share my story and give back to someone else, because I know that there's people out there. I know that people, you know, the autism rate right now is like 1 in 39. And that number is even higher for boys. So I wanted to share this with somebody, that way anybody who's out there who's looking, who's like, oh my God, like what are we gonna do, how are we gonna do it, I wanted to let them know that it's possible to get on a path to healing. It's possible to get our kids back. It's possible to be happy again. It's possible to enjoy this life. And I don't look at my son as my son who has autism or my son who is autistic. I look at my son who was injured, and that's another topic for another day, because we can get into that for real. But talk about my son who has gone through this thing and he can get better. So I immediately changed my diet. I changed his diet. And that was a struggle. Like, let me be real. It was not easy. It involved a whole lot of research and it involved a whole lot of cooking. And anybody who knows me knows that I love to eat, but one of the things I doing is cooking. I hate cooking. I hate cooking. But if this was the path to get my son better, if this was the journey I had to go on to get my son healed, well, call me Chef Boyardee. And that's what I did. I got books. I watched videos. I reached out to people that I didn't know. I was just like, well, okay, how do you make that? Like, where do you get that? And I had to change my kitchen. I had to throw some stuff out, add some stuff in. And bit by bit, I noticed an improvement with him. I noticed that I think we went no dairy and no wheat for a week. And all of a sudden, I got eye contact. Like, eye contact. This was a boy that was not looking at me when he would talk. This was a boy that wouldn't respond to his name. I cut out wheat and dairy. All of a sudden, he's looking me in my eyeballs. Like, come on. So that was enough for me to be like, all right, let's keep going. So we cut out wheat, we cut out dairy, we cut out soy. And soy is in everything. Wheat is in everything. So I really had to start paying attention to the food that I bought, that I purchased with my money, that I bought into the house. So I knew that I was the gatekeeper. So I just had to throw it away. All the stuff that wasn't good, I threw it away, or I gave it away. And I replaced it. So I started cooking with real food. So, so typically, like for breakfast, he would have oatmeal. I would get, regular old not Uncle Ben, what's his name? Quaker Oats. I would get the regular Quaker Oats. My son, he loved, the Quaker Oats. I added a little bit of cinnamon, maybe a little bit of vanilla, and fresh fruit or frozen fruit, because that's cheaper. So I get some frozen blueberries or strawberries, or if I had some apples, I chop up some apples and I add that to his oatmeal in the morning, and that's what he would eat. And then from there, for lunch, I would make him like chicken nuggets. I just take some regular, chicken breast, chop it up in little pieces, and I wouldn't like dip it in where it wouldn't be breaded, but I would just bake it, and it's essentially, or grill it. It'll be grilled chicken nuggets, and I would have like maybe some ketchup or maybe some barbecue sauce that I found that was like gluten-free barbecue sauce. And that would be like his little dipping, and he would dip that in, and boom, he was happy with some carrot sticks and some celery sticks with a little bit of peanut butter. And I was doing peanut butter at this time. I don't do peanut butter anymore, but that's, like I said, another topic for a different day. But I put that on top, and he was happy. For dinner, once again, we get the spaghetti back. But since we're doing, no wheat, I got the gluten-free noodles. And I did that with some meat, with some tomato spaghetti sauce, and that was dinner. So I found ways to change things up. That way it wasn't so much of a cold turkey experience for him, but slowly, bit by bit, we got better. I started giving him supplements, but the supplements were just like multivitamins or iron or things that he needed. The other thing that we started doing that helped kind of earmark where we needed to go was I got him tested. I started seeing a different pediatrician because after his experience with this last pediatrician, and I pretty much kind of questioned, what was going on with him, and she pretty much dismissed my concerns. I said, you know what? Well, I don't have time for this, because I'm on a mission. So I went and got another pediatrician, because I know my kid. So either we gonna work together and we gonna partner together, or I'm gonna get somebody else. And that's exactly what I did. So I got somebody else, and they were able to test him. So he got stool tests, he got genetic tests, he got, nutritional deficiency tests. So he got all those things done. So I was able to really see like what's going on inside his body, because we see what's going on the outside. We see these symptoms, but really what's going on the inside. And what the inside was telling me was like, oh, well, he's deficient here, or he's got an excess of this over here. So I started changing things up based on that. So that helped me. I did a food allergy panel, the IgG. So that helped me see like what's really going on in his gut. And when I say his gut, I'm talking about his whole digestive system. That's your gut. And it helped me understand, okay, he's got this, he's got that. Okay, we can plug these areas in with the things that he needs help with. So with all that, he was doing much better. He was getting better. Now, it wasn't easy, with all of these things, it wasn't easy. I'm talking about a lot of sleepless nights. I'm not even going to kid you. It was a lot of sleepless nights, and in many ways, all of the stuff I did, because it encompasses you. Like it takes over. Well, it took over my life, and as much as it's changed me, I became so hypersensitive, hypervigilant to everything, and because of what we had already dealt with in terms of his autistic symptoms, there was a part of me that was experiencing some PTSD as well. So I was just shook. I was like, with every little thing, I was just like, oh my God, like, what is this going to happen? Is he going to have a meltdown? Is this going to make him be this way? Are people going to be staring at me? I felt all of those things. So as much as everything that I'm doing is trying to get him better, I was so focused on that, it was isolating at times where, the idea like, oh, let's go hang out and let's have a play date. Like, what kind of play date am I having with my kid, who at one point I could even take him outside because he would dart across the street and he would run away from me. So I was afraid he might get hit by a car, or I might lose him somewhere because he was unable. I couldn't just hold his hand and walk him anywhere or carry him, so, and he wasn't playing with anybody. He wasn't playing with other kids. So it was hard at certain parts to really feel as though, I can be, the cool mom. and I could hang out and do all the fun things. Like the idea of going to the park, the idea of going to an amusement park, the idea of going to an indoor playground was just too much for him, because the anxiety, all the loud noises, the sensory overload, all those things would drive him crazy. And that's no fun for anybody. And of course, again, I got my other kid right here. So I have to have eyes everywhere. And then really, who's having any fun? I'm trying to keep her safe. I'm trying to keep him okay. And then in the meantime, I'm running ragged. So it was definitely, it's definitely been difficult, but we are getting better each day. And with the changes that we are making, we're getting there. Now, he started ABA therapy, which is another thing that we had to start doing. ABA therapy is applied behavioral analysis, and it's almost where they're able to work one-on-one with a therapist, and they would come to his home and they would work with him, and they would just go over different things. They had different goals for him, and it would just almost be repetitive. Just, this is how you do this is how you do that. And it was very helpful for him. I mean, he grew so much from being in ABA. So I know a lot of people feel very strongly one way or another about ABA, but for my son and for a certain point in his life, ABA was very helpful to us. So if it's something that you haven't done, I suggest, just look it up, try it. If you don't like it, if it doesn't work, then don't do it. And that's going with everything. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it, or stop doing it, or do something else. You don't have to be held to something. So like I said, so for several years we were doing the gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. He was doing ABA. He was doing well. He was getting better. He's talking. He's got language. He's got vocabulary. He's got a lot of vocabulary to the point where he won't stop talking. And I'm so thankful for that. But I just wanted to do something a little bit different. So we kept going. We changed his diet even more. We took out grains altogether, and we started doing the GAPS diet. And when I tell you, the GAPS diet, that was really, we turned the corner with that one. The latter, I think, for autism, for some people, the trajectory in terms of recovery, people think it's like, a staircase. You go up, 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 up. But really, and some people think, oh, it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. I don't even think, I can't speak for everybody, but I know for us, it wasn't like that. It was like 2 steps forward, a cartwheel this way, a moonwalk that way. You spin around, you do a split, and then you lay on the floor for a little bit, and then you get up and you rocket ship that way. So it's all over the place, right? Like that's it's like this. But if you see my hands, all in that direction. So, like I said, the whole point of this video is just to share with people that you don't have to be stuck with the diagnosis that you receive. You don't have to stay there. And I know that the concept is hard for some people to believe. Some people have this idea that, autism is something that, you have to have. It stays with you. There's no cure. You can't get better. Like, it is what it is. And you can think that way, and that's your prerogative. Or if you're like, you know what? I can't do this because this life is hard. It's hard. And the way I see it for me is it could be hard with having your child that's not potty trained, having your child that can't speak, having your child that is really in their own world, a shell to themselves. Having not having your child who really doesn't, you don't really know their personality because they're too busy screaming and punching the walls and smearing the walls with poop and all these other things that these kids symptom wise are doing. That's hard to deal with. Or you can do something else, which might be hard, yeah, but you're able to get them a little bit better, able to get them a little bit healthier. So that's what I chose to do. So if this speaks to anybody, if this helps at least one person, then I'm thankful. You know, this is my story. I'm not a doctor. But I play one on TV. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a mom. I'm a mom that has a child. I'm a mom that works. I go to work. And it's difficult, but you know, we can do it. We can do it together collectively. You know, we can get our kids back. We can get them healthy. We can get them healthy again. And just so you know, like right now, like I said, my son, he was diagnosed right before he turned 2. And he's 5 now. He's in school. He's doing great. He's such a genius. And I'm not saying that just because he's my kid, but he really is. Like, he can read, he can write. And those of you that know, those of you that have your kids that are on the spectrum, you know those kids are special. They have certain things, certain talents, certain their brains, the way they think is totally different, you know. So I know that, you know what I'm talking about when I say that these kids are geniuses. So my kid's a genius. Like, he's reading and writing. He's like reading like 4th grade level books. Like his sister's asking him like, how do you spell blah blah blah, and he's like, blah blah blah. You know, and sometimes, you know, people will say certain things to you and they'll be like, oh, well, why don't you just blah, 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 or why don't this happen? And you just want to just drop kick them in the face, because until you are a parent of a child that's on the spectrum, you really don't understand what this life is. You know, that you're constantly almost, it's this level of PTSD where you're constantly like trying to either prevent a meltdown, or you're being proactive, or you're constantly thinking, you know, 20 steps ahead. Like it's like you have to always be on. You know, you have to always be ready to go, you know, at any moment. Like, if, let's say, you go to a birthday party and all of a sudden the kid has a meltdown, what you gonna do? You gotta leave the birthday party. You know, it's like the idea of it. And for me, I have 2 kids, and they both are equally exhausting for very different reasons. So trying to split your attention and give love and give attention to them, you know, sometimes it's almost impossible. But you fight through it and you persevere, because I gotta be mommy. I gotta take care of both of them. It's not good enough sometimes to say, oh, well, we can't because your brother or whatever, you know? So we're working through that, and it's a process. But, you know, I encourage, and this is what I'm trying to do with this video, is just encourage people to know that there's an option. You don't have to stay at a diagnosis. You don't have to stay with, well, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't want to stay at the point where they're like, oh, your kid, you know, they got autism. You know, good luck with that. Like, that's not the answer. People want answers. People want help. People need help. And it's not readily available out there. So just to wrap this up, because this video is longer than I had intended, but, you know, I would start with most people. I would just say, start with the diet, change the diet, do whatever you can to change the diet. Dairy and gluten or wheat is highly inflammatory. And, you know, if you have an integrative doctor, a functional medicine doctor, or a naturopath or a chiropractor or somebody that's going to put you on the right path to maybe run some tests and get you to figure out what's going on inside this child's body that's causing them to behave this way, that's causing them to chew on things, that's causing them to punch and kick and have self-injury, that's causing them to have anxiety, causing them not to speak. See if you can get those tests done. Those tests are going to help you see what's going on the inside. And then from there, it's like you have a blueprint on what you can and can't do or what you need to do. But I'm just thankful right now. My son, he's 5. He's doing better. He's on the road to recovery, and I'm no longer, or at least I've gotten to this place where I feel comfortable enough now to share this, because for a time there was a certain level, I think, of shame that I carried. There's a certain level of vulnerability that I wasn't really willing to share. But I'm at a place now where, I just want to help other people, and I just want to share the knowledge that I know and give tips and give help where I can to those that need it. If your life is working for you and everything's going great, well, then this video is not for you. But if you're looking for answers, if you're looking for somebody to help you and steer you on the right path, I'm glad to help. So see you later. Bye.